Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are going to unpack the really profound theology behind one of the most famous biblical stories out there, Jesus feeding the 5,000. We're going to explore how this remarkable narrative actually moves from a very tangible, physical event to a beautiful, overarching metaphor for spiritual connection. Specifically, we're going to lean into the Christian view of this text, examining how it completely shifts our focus. It moves us away from just satisfying our immediate, earthly hunger and points us toward finding a much deeper, eternal nourishment. To honor our source material, we're going to follow a thematic ascent today. We'll start with the wilderness of life, move on to fulfilling deepest needs, look at miracles through small obedience, go beyond the physical signs, and finally, wrap up with the steps to true communion.
All right, let's jump right in with Section 1, the wilderness of life.
So, the story literally takes place in the wilderness. But looking at it through the Christian perspective presented in our text, the wilderness isn't just some geographical spot on a map, right? It's a vital spiritual state. Think about why people often seek out faith in the first place. Sometimes it's for networking, maybe business success, or just to live a good moral life. But the wilderness? That is the exact moment when our everyday resources, our wealth, our human connections, even our health, completely dry up. It's that scary place where all our careful human calculations and our safety nets just disappear. And according to the source, this makes it the absolute perfect place to truly encounter the divine. Why? Because it strips everything else away, leaving room only for complete reliance on God as the creator and the ultimate source of life.
Moving right along to Section 2, fulfilling deepest needs.
The source notes something incredibly touching here. Jesus didn't look out at this massive crowd of 5,000 men, plus women and children, by the way, and see some huge logistical nightmare. He didn't see a burden. He looked at them wandering around like sheep without a shepherd, with immense, deep compassion. But even more than that, he genuinely rejoiced at the thought of pouring out grace upon them. He was absolutely delighted by the opportunity to provide for them abundantly.
Now, to test the limits of human calculation and to reveal this divine compassion, Jesus poses a seemingly impossible question to his disciple, Philip. He asks, "Where shall we buy bread for these people to eat?" Keep in mind, they are literally in the wilderness. There are no bakeries around, and honestly, even if there were, feeding that many people would cost an absolute fortune. But Jesus wasn't asking for a business strategy here. He was testing Philip, trying to help him let go of his human limits and recognize the divine presence standing right in front of him. Our text beautifully illustrates God's mindset in this exact moment with a really great modern analogy. I want you to imagine an incredibly wealthy father who lost his beloved 8-year-old child years ago. After this long, desperate search, he finally finds his child in an orphanage. Overjoyed, he takes the kid by the hand, walks into the biggest toy store in the world, looks down and asks, "Child, who could possibly buy all these toys for you and your friends?" Now, the kid might be totally confused, not knowing what this man means or even who he really is yet. But the father? He asks this question while already joyfully prepared to buy literally everything in sight. That is the exact heart behind Jesus' question in the wilderness. He already had the complete plan to provide.
That brings us to Section 3, miracles through small obedience.
The text draws this really fascinating distinction between the secular and the Christian views of effort and miracles. In a secular view, folks often think that if they just work hard enough, they earn a good outcome. Or if a situation resolves itself naturally, well, it wasn't a miracle, it was just good timing or a simple transaction. But the Christian view is totally different. It sees human effort, like studying diligently, managing your health, or running a business, not as some transaction to earn a miracle, but as an act of obedience. God frequently works miracles entirely within his natural laws of creation. So, when a patient diligently follows medical advice and heals incredibly fast, or a student studies hard and crushes an exam, the Christian perspective sees this as the Creator accelerating or working directly through those natural laws. It is grace, not just human achievement. So the really crucial point here is that the miracle utilizes seemingly insignificant resources. Think about it. A young boy brings forward just 5 loaves of cheap barley bread and 2 small fish. In the face of well over 5,000 hungry people, that is mathematically absurd. But the text highlights that human obedience, simply bringing whatever little you have, partnered with divine grace, creates the extraordinary. Just as God used ravens to feed the prophet Elijah in the Old Testament, Jesus uses these tiny, everyday, almost pathetic resources to manifest a completely mind-bending miracle.
Let's move into Section 4, beyond the physical signs.
Picture the scene for a second. Thousands of people have just eaten an absolute feast,
from virtually nothing. They are ecstatic. The source notes that the crowd immediately wanted to force Jesus to become their political and economic ruler. I mean, who wouldn't want a king who can instantly solve inflation and food shortages with a single prayer, right? But Jesus completely rejects this worldly kingship. In fact, he essentially runs away. He withdraws to a mountain all alone. Why? Because the crowd's reaction missed the point entirely.
See, Jesus didn't come just to be a really good economic problem solver. The physical bread was merely a sign. It was a pointer. It was pointing directly to Jesus himself as the ultimate bread of life. The true aim of this whole miracle was to establish an eternal, spiritual communion with humanity, rather than just satisfying a temporary physical hunger that, let's face it, was inevitably going to return the very next morning.
And finally, we arrive at Section 5, Steps to True Communion.
Our text actually provides 3 highly actionable steps for our daily lives here. First, give thanks. Just as Jesus gave thanks for that tiny, insignificant amount of bread before the miracle, gratitude is described as the essential spiritual metabolism of faith. Just as our physical bodies literally have to breathe and metabolize to stay alive, gratitude is the spiritual breathing that keeps our connection to the divine alive and healthy. Second, obey the word. Jesus told the massive crowd to sit down on the grass before there was any visible food whatsoever. Sometimes divine plans totally surpass human logic, but true obedience means following those steps anyway. And third, pause and pray. Just as Jesus retreated to the mountain when the crowd tried to make him a worldly king, we have to intentionally pause. We need to seek God in prayer whenever the noise of the world and honestly our own earthly ambitions threaten to take over our spiritual lives. To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a really provocative question, taken directly from the heart of our source material. It asks, why are we so desperate for physical miracles, for our health, our finances, to fix our daily problems, but we remain completely empty, like a barren wilderness, when it comes to deep spiritual communion? It's a powerful challenge for all of us, right? Are we merely chasing immediate physical relief, just looking for a quick, temporary fix to our earthly problems? Or are we truly seeking a profound, lasting spiritual connection with the provider of life himself? Thank you so much for joining me to explore this incredible narrative today. Take that question with you, let it sink in, and I will see you in the next explainer.